and then they'd sell heads, arms, legs, and even whole bodies for scientific use, medical use, and private personal use.
Dear God.
Non Apologetic news.
I'd like to start with a particular type of criminal we have here, okay? So we know it's one thing to steal a marked police car, right? It takes a certain amount of testicular fortitude to get in that vehicle and go off. You're making a commitment.
Yeah.
At that point. That is not like, I'm going to do this, then something else later on in the day. You have made like a multi-year commitment at that point.
You canceled all plans for like the next year and a half.
So it's one thing to do that, to steal the vehicle. It's another thing to start answering police calls after you steal the vehicle, which is exactly what Jeremiah James Taylor of Teller County, Colorado did last week.
Jeremiah James Taylor.
So what they say is about 3 a.m. Monday, he sees a police vehicle. They're responding to a call, but the vehicle's running. So he hops in the vehicle, takes off.
What?
30 minutes later, he responds to a domestic violence call that came over the radio. And they said he even verified, Officer 48, whatever he said. In fact, they say he was allegedly the first on the scene. So he goes in, I'm the cop, I'm here to go. And then the couple who's having fisticuffs, I guess, who are having like a real issue, they stop their issue to call 911 again and say, hey, the officer you sent over here is drunk. So as soon as the other officers show up, he walks right past him, officer, hops in the vehicle, and takes off. Apparently they were not aware of the situation. So this guy takes off right when the deputies arrived. The vehicle was spotted again 2 hours later, which means he got away, right?
He's doing pretty good.
Pretty dang good. 2 hours later, leading to a high-speed chase that ended with Taylor running into the woods. But he lost them in a field. They did find him later, and they say he was arrested on charges of impersonating a police officer, car theft, resisting arrest, and reckless driving. Taylor also reportedly suffered self-inflicted knife wounds before his arrest. Let's think about the timeline here, okay? It's 3 a.m. So the guy's hammered. More or less, no matter where you live, the bars are shut down now. He doesn't have money for an Uber or whatever, so he grabs the cop car, okay? And then he drives around for 30 minutes. And then he hears a domestic violence. And he's okay with, stealing a police car, but don't you beat on no woman. That's what Bubba used to do to mama, So he goes over there to stop it, but it stopped being so important when he heard him call the police on him. So he buzzes out, drives around for 2 hours. It's now 5:30 in the morning, probably closer to 6 because he was there responding to the call.
Right.
What's your name? And, whatever. For some period of time, So it's 5:36 in the morning, and then police get behind him. He takes them on another 30-minute police chase, loses them in a field, and then apparently stabs himself. And that's the part that I don't get. Like, why would you stab yourself? Unless
Well, was it on purpose, or was he like running with a knife and fell on it? Or?
I didn't think about that, but where'd the knife come from? Maybe this was like his way of dealing with it, like, Jimmy done bad. Do you ever know anybody who cut themselves?
Not really.
I had the pleasure. It was a girl. She was a psychopath. But she called them sad marks, and she had them all that were like where they would be shirt covered from the elbow up, and it looked like the scarification, like it was meant to be, And I talked to her at some great deal one night. We were hammered, but I remember a little bit about it. And it was something to the effect of like whenever she felt bad, feeling like the skin open, like the actual spreading of the skin made that sadness go away. She was. I wonder what she's doing these days. I have to call her up. But yes, this man was a winner, and I honestly wish him the best of luck. I mean, he really didn't do anything too bad. Hopefully he heals up from his stab wounds and he will live to tell the tale. And if this message makes it to you, give us a call. We'd love to interview you. What do you have for the great people today on Non Apologetic News?
Resident Evil 9 rumors are shuffling. As a massive Resident Evil 9 leak teases where the zombie series could go next. We know the next Resident Evil will round off the Winter's trilogy, but what's next for Rose, Chris, and the rest of the game?
We'll round off the Winter's trilogy.
Yeah, the games, according to this guy, have become increasingly outlandish.
Hold on, is this just some guy's like tweet, or is like this like something?
No, it's something.
Okay.
Have become increasingly outlandish after Albert Wesker was tossed into a volcano in Resident Evil 5, which is not wrong. Resident Evil 6 was not a fan of. Played through it once. That was about it.
I don't think I even made it all the way through it. It like wasn't Resident Evil. 4 different
scenarios. Yeah.
I actually tried to go back a couple years ago with like I don't know, an emulator or something. I tried to go back to it. I quit like 2 hours in.
It's just the shooter.
This is whack.
Resident Evil 7, The Village, that brought it back. Brought a lot of people back.
Yeah, especially playing that in VR, man. That is terror.
I've yet to experience that, so I would love to.
Oh, you must.
Although there's no official release date for Resident Evil 9, we're sure it's on the way. But according to this leak, it'll be entitled Resident Evil Apocalypse.
It's a little on the nose, but maybe.
All right. And the main setting will apparently take place in a ghost town in the West that's populated by mythical monsters like goatmen and wendigos.
The fuck is a wendigo?
I don't know. The creatures will be able to transform and fool players into thinking they're friendly NPCs before attacking.
Oh, that's actually interesting.
It's
a bunch of bullshit.
But it would be a twist. An early enemy is Barghest.
That's like when you find in like Dark Souls, when you find your first chest that's a mimic. Like you go through like 6 hours of gameplay, and every chest you open, it's something great, and then you open up the next one, and it eats you. And then for the rest of the game, you're like, shit.
As far as this game's Mother Miranda, the main antagonist is a woman called Glaystig, who is dressed in green and covered in gold. And then finally, you'll be assisted by a female bioweapon called Holder, acting as your guide.
Okay, so you have an infected guiding you?
I guess so.
With what were they calling? They're doing the standalone DLC this year for 8.
Shadows of Rose.
Shadows of Rose, October 22nd. Yeah. That's not that far away.
Nope.
Next up, are you missing body parts? Because we may have just found them.
Dude, we going to scissor that, baby!
So, a Colorado funeral home is accused of running an illegal body parts scheme, and they are facing 20 years. Matter of fact, they have a plea bargain on the table. Whether they take it or not, I do not know, with 20 years inside. A funeral home established a nonprofit body broker. Apparently, if you get consent from the families, you can obtain a small tissue sample or tumor of the dead relative and, have it to further research cancer, etc. Which is all good, except that's not what they did. They'd take those consent forms, they'd alter them, and then they'd sell heads, arms, legs, and even whole bodies for scientific use, medical use, and private personal use.
Dear God.
So the extra income enabled them to undercut the competition's prices. They were also accused of often delivering urns that didn't actually contain any of your loved ones, so to speak, and allegedly shipped body parts they certified as disease-free, even though they had tested positive for HIV, potentially getting the medical workers a little bit of AIDS. Now, a former employee also accuses them of harvesting and selling $40,000 worth of gold teeth. So at her plea hearing, she said, "I'm taking full responsibility. The families believe I went beyond the scope of the consent forms. I do not agree." So she has her full sentencing if she fails to take the plea deal is in January. So they were selling these body parts. A lot of it was legal stuff. Not legal that they took it, but legal, means of selling it to research facilities. And then they were also, I guess I could go there and be like, can I have a left ear? And then, just get it from them. Here's something that always bothered me was when you get people cremated. Like anybody who's had a wood stove knows that even when you clean that out at the end of the year, it's never fully clean, right? Unless maybe you power wash it, but these are like inside ovens. They're not power washing them, So like, let's say you get burnt up and then Sally comes in dead and she's about to get burnt up and they scoop up like it's going to be a mixture of you, Sally, and the 6 people before. You know what I mean? Like, you're never actually getting your family members. So that always kind of bothered me a bit. Plus, it's not like you get the full amount of ashes. You know, a person is going to make more ashes than can fit in an urn. So, I mean, it's a good keepsake, but, like, I'd always wonder, you know what I mean?
Right.
What's really in that jar? This is absolutely insane. Some people are just crazy, but I'll tell you what, as long as they keep doing crazy stuff, we will keep reporting on it. What do you say about that? I think that is true, and I also think that is all the time we have today. I thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we will be right back here next Wednesday in these same 2 seats. I am Travesty. Next to me is a Body Bag. We will see y'all next week. Good night, everybody, and whatever you do not watch the news.
Non Apologetic news. Non Apologetic news.